Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by my good friend Lou DiBella for DiBella's Digest. Lou, how's your week been?
Well, nothing horrible's happened. So
Hooray.
that I view that as a positive. I have one of my old fighters, Peter Manfredo Jr. He was well known for his stint on the Contender, but he was a terrific sort of. In England, he would have been a Commonwealth champion many times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was that kind. But he was a pretty beloved fighter. Sold a lot of tickets. Also made a lot of great fights, and he won that Contender series early on. But every single day, Peter sends me this a positive saying or a little prayer thing, and he sends it. I mean, I'm guessing I'm not the only one. I think he sends it to people he cares about in his life. And basically what he wants from them is just like an icon or something back, basically saying, I'm still here. So at this point, in the middle of all this shit going on in the world and how difficult it is to do business or just get through the days with lockdowns and quarantines and vaccine lines and, I mean, New York State, I mean, I'm a New York promoter. This state is basically largely closed down. I mean, it has been for over a year. It's very frustrating. Not over a year, but it's getting on a year, right? It closed down in March. But I woke up this morning. I sent an icon back to Manfredo. I woke up this morning, so I'm all right. So let's talk about the exhibition or fight or whatever it is. But you wanted to talk about Ryan Garcia and Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, I mean, it was announced by Ryan Garcia, of course. It hasn't been confirmed yet by the Pacquiao team, but announced by Ryan Garcia that his next fight, we were all waiting for him to confirm a fight with Tank Davis, looking forward to that. And then out of left field, he says he's going to be fighting Manny Pacquiao next. And at first, everyone was kind of skeptical. And then it was later announced or reported that it could only be an exhibition fight, which disappointed a number of people.
An exhibition fight, I would have no real interest in. I mean, I'm intrigued by it as it's a really interesting conceptual fight from a business standpoint with boxing legitimacy. I mean, Ryan Garcia is way less. I mean, obviously, Manny Pacquiao's a first ballot Hall of Famer if he would have retired 5 years ago. I mean, but Manny Pacquiao is one of the greatest of all time. He's still at a high level.
Yeah.
But not as high a level, in my view, as he was 5 years ago. None of us beat Father Time. Ryan's on the climb up. He's also huge social media, huge box office, good looking, tall, long, reach advantage, jab advantage. I would argue maybe even one punch power advantage. I mean, Manny Pacquiao would be favored in the fight. But if you want to do something off the grid and do something sort of interesting, to me, that is interesting because eventually Garcia is going to max out, in my view, at a weight higher than Manny did because he's a bigger kid and he's a baby. I mean, he's in his early 20s. So, I like it as a real fight. If it's an exhibition, I don't want to see exhibition between two active top shelf prize fighters. It's absurd. But a real fight, I would buy into that. I would like to see it. I would probably pay for it. Look, I think right now Garcia wants obviously star-making opportunities. He wants the biggest opportunity he can get. Most important thing for him is to figure out the next step and get back in the ring. You continue to build as a fighter, continue to build your base of support, and your audience. I don't expect to see a Davis fight now because, honestly, I think that the zone would be well advised, and I think they know it, to continue to run with Ryan Garcia. They have an output deal with Golden Boy, and the gem now that Golden Boy is separated with Canelo, the gem of Golden Boy's stable. Well, they have a couple. I mean, they have at the top of their stable, they have a couple of fighters they have a couple of guys, but he is the gem from a marketing standpoint of their stable. He is the next potential superstar in their stable. So I would think that that's an advantage that the zone's going to exploit. And I would certainly guess that Ryan's next fight's going to be on the zone.
Is there an argument that even if Ryan were to come up short in the fight against Pacquiao, he could still gain from it, similar in a way to Canelo when he lost to Mayweather?
if you get out there and you rumble and you lose a fight that most people think you're going to lose, but you lose it really well,
Yeah.
particularly if you're a young kid. I mean, if he can look, if the guy can prove that he can hang with Pacquiao and give Pacquiao a fight, then it answers a lot of questions about where he is. He's a lot farther along than people like want to give him credit for. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I already think he's heading in the right direction. Look, honestly, you know, if this was Ryan's idea himself, then it's really smart thinking, because it's genius because you have it's a no lose proposition. You're going to make a shitload of money. The worst thing that can happen to you is you do something that almost everyone did before who fought him. You lose to Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the worst thing that can happen to him. In a fight that he's coming up 2 weight classes. All these, like, I never have been that big a fan of these. You know, I've never been a fan of the jump multiple weight class fights. This one intrigues me for the reasons we're talking about. Whereas, like, I just knew that
Mikey.
Well, I knew Mikey Garcia was going to lose. I expected him to lose badly. He did. Who's the kid in the Amir Khan?
Oh,
like
yeah.
I bet the knockout in the middle rounds of that
Kilbrough
fight
against Golovkin, of course.
Right, same thing. It was so I'm not, but this is different. It's like it's a guy who could retire tomorrow or at any time and go into the Hall of Fame against the kid that people's imaginations are captured about, who's the young kid looking to propel himself. You know, but I mean, Ryan's a big, tall, long 35-pounder. So the idea of jumping up in weight for an opportunity to fight. Look, if he didn't get that opportunity now, he would never fight Pacquiao. They wouldn't intersect. Pacquiao ain't going to be around when, you know, most people think that, you know, when Ryan's 140 or 147 pounds.
There's almost 20 years between them, isn't there?
I mean, yeah, Pacquiao was the world champion before Ryan was born, I think.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, you know, it's intriguing, and I don't think it would be embarrassing from a boxing standpoint. I don't. Do I think it's going to happen? No, and because I'm hearing stories on the, you know, through circles that this relates to a private investor, and the reason they talked about an exhibition was not because the fighters didn't want it to count, but because the guy wanted to do it sort of on his own property in like a part. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't even understand it fully, but I think it's a long shot that you're going to see Pacquiao and Garcia. Though I do believe if they ever put it together, it would have a lot of appeal.
From Pacquiao's perspective, it's easy to see why he'd prefer a fight with Garcia than Errol Spence or Terence Crawford at this stage.
Because the Garcia fight's bigger and probably in his view easier. And in his view, probably much easier. He'll be the favorite. And it's probably a bigger fight. By the way, make no mistake about it, Garcia Pacquiao is bigger than Garcia against any of the other guys in that, you know, that group.
Yeah.
You know, it just is.
And it's bigger for Pacquiao too than anyone in the welterweight division, arguably, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
And what about kind of style-wise for the fans? Because there's a lot of skeptics out there, but for me, with the styles of the two guys, it seems almost like a can't miss.
How could it be a bad fight? I mean, Garcia, like, you know, he's long, he has a jab, he has reach, but he rumbles, you know, and he likes to throw big punches. He throws uppercuts, he throws body shots, he throws, and he also receives. Like, and by the way, so does Manny. Neither one of these guys are not defensive wizards who don't get hit. So, and by the way, we know they can both bang. I mean, even as an old man, Manny can bang. The Senator is a beast. I mean, he's an old man now, but he's still like one of the top guys in the world, which is just a tribute to what a remarkable career he's. I mean, it's ridiculous when you know, I mean, when you look at it. I mean, it's crazy the career that Pacquiao's had and how long he's been a competitive. But you know, the other kid's not in bad fights. I don't see how it could be a bad fight. No. One's running.
If it did come together, I know we're both skeptical about whether it will, but if it did, would it be the biggest box office fight of the year, do you think?
I mean, it depends how you view box office. It also depends on whether Fury and Joshua happens this year. So I think that it's like those two factors. I think worldwide box office, I still think the biggest fight probably you would be able to make in the world right now would be Fury and Joshua. Still the heavyweights. It's the two best. Outside of the U.S., I'm not being U.S. centric. The rest of the world, Fury Wilder is bigger, way bigger than Ryan Garcia and Pacquiao. So I would say, not necessarily, but I'll tell you this: it's going to be in the top three. I mean, it's not too else.
It's bigger I don't know than Canelo.
By the way, it's going to be no worse than the second biggest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's bigger than any one Canelo fights this year, I would think.
I would think it's bigger than yeah, it's big.
Yeah. And this is if we're discounting, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather, and whatever they're getting up to. I'm talking about legitimate fights. If this went ahead as a legit fight, of course.
I don't even know who this guy. Someone had to tell me who this guy was that's fighting.
Ben Askren.
Yeah, I mean, and then I remember that I think he came up with some like a aplomb for his UFC debut, and then he got knocked out.
He got knocked out in like 5 seconds or something, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, I think I actually watched that fight. I remember when I saw the picture of the red hair guy. Like I remembered, I remembered that I'd seen him before. But I mean, hey, it seems like to me like that kid can't. The other kid can't fight, so he's not. Supposedly he can punch, but I've seen footage. I mean, it's probably competitive, but who cares? I mean, honestly, I don't even know who the other guy is. So. Do I care? I don't know. Would I watch it? It depends how bored I am and what night it's on.
I suppose it gives him a bit more legitimacy than fighting an ex-NBA player, for example.
I think it's a sensible matchup on paper. It's acknowledging levels, right? The other thing too is if they're going to have Snoop Dogg on commentary, and there's going to be like 6 musical performances, I'm going to evaluate it as entertainment for the price. Which is the way other people are gonna. But you know what? By the way, I'm getting tired of all. I'm tired of all the people that take everything so seriously in boxing, and I'm tired of all the criticisms and the hate and the craziness. I mean, it is what it is. Buy it if you want. If you don't want, don't buy it. I mean, it's not changing the world. It's not like spoiling the purity of boxing. When the fuck has boxing been pure? I mean, it's not spoiling the purity. It is what it is. In the meantime, we're going to get some good fights, and we're talking about some good fights. And even some of the more, like the Ryan Garcia Pacquiao's, the more unlikely matchups that are being discussed, or would at least be quality entertainment.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what annoyed me when it was announced by Garcia, and people saying, "Oh, he's not going to fight Tank now," and Pacquiao's running scared from Crawford and Spence. And I just thought, embrace the positive of it. This is a really good fight if it happens.
Look, and also pay attention to the politics of boxing. There are certain fighters like potentially the fighters that have pay-per-view possibilities. The Canelo, you could argue eventually a Ryan Garcia, a Pacquiao, where they are so meaningful standing on their own, right? Those guys are going to maybe possibly some creative deals can be worked out between competing platforms. But you still have to pay attention. I know that the 8 million people that make believe they're boxing writers, along with the 100 that actually are, or whatever it is worldwide, I know that they need stuff to write about, honestly. But you do have to pay attention to where people fight. I mean, there's a reason why Crawford hasn't fought all these other guys. Now, I know Crawford's pressuring more, and Bob probably doesn't want to eat losses also. So maybe something can be done with Crawford. But then you have to measure the expectations of the fighters against reality. Crawford-Spence is a brilliant fight, one of the best you can make in the world. Is it the top of the list of potential box office? I think it would do okay, but not enough to pay those guys what they think they deserve to fight each other. And then you still have those competing avenues. So it's, I'll tell you something. So I have to look for 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm in the office alone today because may he feel better. My boy Sean Sullivan slipped in the shower yesterday and took a huge spill and spent the day in the hospital, and he's home for the next few days. So I'm the only person in the office space working alone, trying to work.
He wasn't lined up to fight Cole Frampton, was he?
No. But he did slip in the shower.
Well, get well soon, Sean. Lovely guy. Known him a long time. Thanks, Lou. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch up next week, and we'll know if the fight's actually going ahead or not. Hopefully by then.
Yeah, we could learn more. Good talking to you, Dan.
And you, Lou. Take care. Bye-bye.